on a crowded bus. Amidst the suffocating space filled with curious glances and a tense atmosphere, an unexpected confrontation unfolded. A young man with a defiant gaze and an elderly gentleman exuding calm and steadfastness. Two people, two generations, and two contrasting perspectives. What appeared to be a mere dispute over a seat held a surprisingly profound lesson. What happened next? And why did everyone on that bus fall silent in the wake of that moment? Let's uncover the story. Because sometimes the smallest incidents can lead to the most significant transformations in life. An urban bus rumbled through the streets, sunlight streaming through its windows, blending with the murmur of conversations and the rhythmic hum of tires on asphalt. The vehicle was packed with people standing and sitting shoulder to shoulder, each face a mosaic of emotions. Near the center of the bus, an elderly man sat quietly, gripping a worn cane. This was Mr. Carter, his calm demeanor marked by an air of contemplation. Beside him stood a young man wearing a black hoodie, Ryan, his tense expression fixed on the older gentleman. "Hey, that's my seat. Get up," Ryan snapped, his tone sharp and impatient. Mr. Carter slowly looked up, his face composed but tinged with surprise. His fingers tightened around the cane, knuckles whitening. A few passengers began casting sidelong glances, sensing the brewing tension. "Sorry, but this isn't a reserved seat. You should look for another spot," Mr. Carter replied evenly, his measured voice a stark contrast to Ryan's hostility. Ryan's brows furrowed, his voice rising in frustration, his irritation etched clearly across his face. "I said that's my seat. I've been standing all day. Move." Whispers began circulating among the passengers, quiet yet unmistakable. "Unbelievable. How rude," murmured one passenger, shaking their head. "Shoo. Let's see how this plays out," another responded softly. Ryan leaned closer, pointing a finger at the seat, his stance threatening. Yet Mr. Carter remained seated, his calm demeanor unyielding, as though daring the young man's anger to crest. "Young man, I've been here since I boarded. If you're tired, perhaps you should ask someone else," Mr. Carter said firmly, his steady tone cutting through the heated atmosphere. Ryan smirked, his voice dripping with mockery. "Oh, so now you think you're too important to give up your seat? Sitting there while I stand? Unbelievable." The air on the bus grew heavier with tension. A mother pulled her child closer. An older woman shook her head in silent disapproval. The driver glanced at the rearview mirror but chose not to intervene. Ryan's voice escalated. "I'm not asking again. Get up now." "And I'm not moving," Mr. Carter replied, his voice steady yet resolute. "Respect your elders. Young man, life will give you plenty of chances to sit. Perhaps it's time you learn how to stand." Ryan took a step back, his frustration palpable. He raised his hands, addressing the other passengers as if seeking validation. "Can you believe this guy? Who does he think he is? Who acts like this?" A passenger quietly retorted. "The problem here is you, not him." Ryan spun around, his voice boiling with indignation. "What did you say? Say it to my face. If you're tired, sit somewhere else. There are plenty of seats," the passenger replied, unflinching. Ryan turned back to Mr. Carter, his anger reigniting. "I'm not letting this go. I'll stand here until you do the right thing." Mr. Carter sighed, his expression unchanging. "You can do whatever you like. I won't yield. I've worked hard, lived long, and raised children. I won't be bullied over a seat." Ryan faltered, his aggressive stance softening slightly. The quiet, judgmental stares of the passengers seemed to weigh heavily on him. Suddenly, a young woman stepped forward. Her name was Emily, and her voice was calm but firm. "Hey, maybe you should just let it go. Clearly, he's not moving. And honestly, you're only embarrassing yourself. Stay out of this. This is between me and him." Ryan snapped, redirecting his anger toward Emily. Emily folded her arms, her eyes steady and unwavering. "No, it's between you and your ego." Laughter rippled softly through the bus. Ryan's face flushed, a mix of anger and embarrassment flashing across his features. He leaned down toward Mr. Carter, his voice dropping to a low, menacing tone. Listen here, old man. Mr. Carter met his gaze, his eyes calm yet piercing. His voice was slow and deliberate, each word resonating with quiet authority. Son, life is full of choices. You can choose to continue acting like this and show everyone your worst, or you can sit down, learn some patience, and perhaps grow a little. The choice is yours. The weight of Mr. Carter's words hung in the air. Ryan stood frozen, realizing their gravity. Around them, passengers nodded in agreement, their collective support unspoken yet powerful. Emily added with a wry smile, "He's right. You know, you could do better." Ryan's shoulders sagged as the fire drained from his posture. He muttered under his breath, "Fine, whatever. It's not worth it." His voice was barely audible as he retreated toward the back of the bus, avoiding eye contact with anyone. A gentle ripple of applause and approving murmurs spread among the passengers. In that moment, the bus seemed lighter, as if everyone had shared a quiet but significant victory. Emily patted Mr. Carter on the shoulder. "You handled that like a true professional," she said warmly. Mr. Carter offered a small smile, his tone calm as ever. "You have to stand your ground sometimes, even on a bus." The tension dissolved, and the bus continued its journey. The passengers gradually returned to their routines. Mr. Carter gazed out the window, his face serene. At the back of the bus, Ryan had taken an empty seat, his head bowed in thought. Emily returned to her seat, shaking her head with a small smile. The cityscape outside swept by the windows, the bus pressing forward, leaving the moment behind but not forgotten. A young boy tugged on his mother's sleeve. "Mom, why was that man yelling?" he asked innocently. "Sometimes people let their frustrations get the better of them," his mother explained gently. "But it's important to stay calm and think before we act." At the back of the bus, Ryan stared out the window, his hands gripping his knees as though trying to hold on to something stirring within. Mr. Carter's words echoed in his mind, each syllable resounding deeper than he had expected. "You'll have plenty of chances to sit in life. Learn how to stand now." An elderly passenger seated near Ryan glanced at him kindly and spoke softly. "Young man, life isn't always easy, but what shapes us is how we face challenges, not how we avoid them." Ryan didn't reply, but his shoulders relaxed slightly, as though a sliver of his pride had melted away. He nodded quietly, his gaze still fixed outside. A small bird landed on the sidewalk, its wings trembling against the wind before it took flight with renewed strength. At the front of the bus, Emily glanced back over her shoulder, her lips curving into a faint smile. "Maybe he'll change," she thought, but she said nothing more. Change is a battle fought within oneself. The bus slowed and stopped. A small boy with a backpack stepped on, his bright eyes scanning the crowded space for a seat. There were none. Ryan noticed, hesitation flickering in his eyes. His hand brushed over the seat he occupied, as though grappling with an internal struggle. Then, with a sudden impulse, he stood and gestured toward the boy. "Hey, sit here," he said. The boy beamed and climbed onto the seat, his legs swinging happily. Ryan moved to the back of the bus, leaning against the handrail. His expression no longer carried avoidance but a quiet, newfound peace. Mr. Carter turned slightly from his seat, his eyes meeting Ryan's. No words were exchanged, but a subtle nod from Mr. Carter conveyed a clear message. You did the right thing. Life went on, and the bus rolled through the lively streets. Yet the lesson from that moment lingered, not just for Ryan, but for everyone who witnessed it. It wasn't merely a confrontation. It was a moment of growth, a transformation that anyone could recognize within themselves. A middle-aged man nearby turned to his wife. "It's strange, but I think we all learned something just now," he remarked. His wife nodded thoughtfully. "Yes, perhaps patience and kindness aren't just for others. They're lessons we need to live by for ourselves." The bus continued weaving through the bustling city, but for those on board, it carried more than its passengers. It carried a story about standing firm with calmness and grace through life's challenges. If you were Ryan, how would you have handled the situation? Have you ever faced a tough decision that helped you grow as a person? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments. Your experience might inspire someone else. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to hit like and share it with your friends and family to spread the message of patience and kindness. Remember, even a small act can change not just your world but the world around you. Have a wonderful day.